you guys, this is Mrs. Bolin here with your notes for 8.2. We're going to be solving systems of equations using substitution. So let me turn it there. So first we'll start with the warm-up, which is a little bit of review from last week. So the first question is 1, 3 a solution to the system? And remember, for it to be a solution to the system, it has to work in both equations. Okay, so the point here goes alphabetically. This is x, this is y. So we're going to plug those values in for x and y in both equations. So I'm going to start with the top equation here. I'll put that in blue. So instead of the x, I'm going to write a 1. Instead of the y, I'm going to write a 3. And I want to know, does that equal -2? 1 take away 3, oops, is -2. -2 is equal to -2. Again, obviously I have a hard time writing and talking at the same time, but you guys get what I'm doing, right? Okay, so that one works. Then we're going to do the same thing for the other equation. I'm going to do this one in green. Every time I get to an x, I'm going to put in a 1. When I get to y, I'm going to put in a 3. Remember that when we have a number stuck to a letter, that means multiplication. So when I put it in, I'm going to use parentheses. So I have 2. I know the value of x is 1 for this point. With the y, I don't need parentheses because it's a positive number and nothing is really happening to it there. Except for that plus sign, but we don't need parentheses for that. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 is equal to 5. Yes, it works in both equations. So yes, that point is a solution to the system. Okay, so let's do another one. I'm going to start again with blue. And I'm going to call this one x, this one y, because remember, they go alphabetically. That's the order that the values go in. So I'm going to plug in y, and I need to look up here, and it's 0. Remember, this one was pretty easy because x came first and then y. This one, the y comes first. So you need to make sure that you pay attention to which one is x and which one is y. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 0 for y. I'm going to plug in a 2 for x. And so I get 0 equals 2 take away 2 is 0. So that one works. Now I need to check the second equation. So I'm going to, again, plug in 0 for y. I'm going to write that -3 right there. And then instead of x, again, because we have a number touching a letter, that means multiplication. So I'm going to use parentheses. And then I'm going to write the +6 at the end. So I have 0 equals -6 plus 6. So I get 0 equals 0. That is true. So this one is also a yes. This is a little misleading because there's like an infinite number of points that won't work, and there's one point that will work for most systems of equations when you have 2 equations. Anyways, it's not always going to be yes. This time it worked out to be that way for both of them. Question number 3, these are my favorite. Use the graph to solve the system. It's my favorite because all we have to do is count. If they've already graphed these for us, we don't have to do any work. We just use the graph. But the knowledge that we're checking for here is, do you remember that the solution to a system of equations is that point where they cross? Now remember that we always give our answer as an ordered pair, and we start with the x value, which is how far did we go left or right? Well, we went in the positive direction to the right by 2, and then we went in the negative direction, which is down, by 2. And that's it. That's all of the work you need to show, okay? Moving on to the notes. So sometimes it works really well to make a graph and to find the point where they cross, but sometimes it makes a little bit more sense to try to solve a system of equations using algebra. So using some of the skills that we have already. So what we can do is, if we know that 2 equations are equal to the same thing, we can substitute that value in. So for example, and I'll let you guys read the notes in your book a little bit later. Right now we're going to jump to the practice problems, and I'll try and explain this as we're going. Okay, but if I know the value for y, and y in both of these equations is supposed to be equal, I can find where it is. And then instead of writing that y, I'm going to plug in what I know it's equal to. Okay, so I'm going to copy this equation, -3x minus 3, but when I get to the y, I'm going to stop. Okay, and instead of writing that y, I'm going to plug in what y is equal to, which is 3x plus 4. Okay, and then I'm going to continue writing the whole rest of that equation, equals negative 12. Okay, so this is the same equation I had, negative 3x minus 3y equals negative 12, but I substituted in what I know y is equal to. Okay, so that's why this one's called substitution. Now we're going to have to go way back to chapter 1, and we are going to solve this equation. So we've got a few steps here. First step, distribution. So I'm going to get rid of the parentheses here by doing the multiplication. Remember, parentheses means to multiply. So I have to multiply what's on the outside with every single thing that's on the inside. And keep in mind that this is a negative 3 out in front of that parenthesis. Okay, so this negative 3x just kind of stays there. Negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. It had an x stuck to it, so it stays stuck to it. Then I have negative 3 times positive 4, which is negative 12. And then it equals negative 12. So I'm going to do a little bit of simplifying here. Oops, I should have started with my wall there. So I'm going to put these x's together. So negative 3x minus 9x is negative 12x. And then I'm going to copy minus 12 equals minus 12. And then we're going to add 12 to both sides. So we get negative 12x is equal to 0. When we divide by the negative 12, we get x equals 0. I'm kind of going into the next problem there. Hopefully we'll have room when we get down to that one. Okay, but that's not my answer. Remember when we were doing the graphing, we had to write our answer as an ordered pair? Well, I've got half of the ordered pair. Okay, so what I could do is plug this back in to the easiest equation. If I want to find what y is, I'm going to choose the one where y is already by itself. So I'm going to put that work up here. So I'm going to write y has to be equal to 3. Well, now I know what x is. X is 0, and 0 is a number. It doesn't mean no solution. It means that's just the value. X is 0. And then we're going to put a plus 4. So y equals, well, 3 times 0 is just 0. So y is equal to 4. Now, remember to write your answer as an ordered pair. So we have 0 and 4. Okay, let's try another one of those. I know these are a little bit difficult. We're going to keep plugging away at them, and then we'll start the homework together. We'll do just the odd numbers, okay? So looking at problem number 2, I'm going to do the same thing. So you guys should right now be pausing the video, giving yourself a chance to try the problem, and then checking each step if you're doing it right by hitting play, okay? So there's the y. Here is the y in the equation. So that's where I'm going to plug this value right here. I'm going to plug that in where the y is, okay? So this part doesn't have a y, so I'm just going to copy it how it is. I'm going to start a little bit higher this time so I don't run into the next problem. So I have 7x plus 8, but instead of y, I'm not going to write the y. I want to get all in terms of the same letter, so I'm going to substitute in that value. I know that y is equal to negative 6x plus 9, and then equals negative 10. Okay, so we're going to distribute. So I have 7x. Now I have a positive 8 times a negative 6x. So that's going to give me a negative 48x. Then I have 8 times 9. Both of those are positive, no x's. So I'm just going to write 72. Whoops. And then equals negative 10. Now I'm going to combine some like terms. So I'm going to put 7x take away 48x is negative 41x plus 72 equals negative 10. I'm going to subtract the 72. So on this side it cancels. So I have negative 41x is equal to negative 82. I'm going to divide by the negative 41 on both sides. So I have x is equal to positive 2. All of that work and we got 2, right? It makes me feel better though when it's like a nice, even, small answer like that. Okay, now we're going to take that and plug it back in because remember, this isn't our whole answer. That's just our x value. So I'm going to plug that back into this equation. So I'm going to write y equals, and then I have negative 6. Instead of x, I'm going to put a 2 there, and then plus 9. Remember, I'm going really fast, so please pause the video, catch up, try the problems first, see if you're doing it right, and then check your answers. And so that's the nice part about the video is you guys can kind of go at your own pace. All right, so y is equal to negative 12, because a negative times a positive is a negative, plus 9. So y is equal to negative 3. So whenever we have negatives and positives that we're putting together, remember that they're opposites and they'll cancel each other out. Another way to look at it is if the negative team has 12 and the positive team has 9, who's winning and by how much? So the negative team has 3 extra points. Okay, so am I done? No, still not done. So in order to be done, we need to write our answer as an ordered pair. So 2 and negative 3 is the solution to that system of equations. All right, we're going to do another one. Ooh, I like these ones. These ones are a little bit easier. Look at this, you guys. Here's the y and here's the y. So I'm going to take this and I'm still going to plug it in for y. This one's a little bit easier because I just boop, put it right there. And I don't have to worry about multiplying, adding, subtracting, whatever. So I can just put the 8x minus 18 on that side. So I'm going to write it out like this. 8x minus 18 is equal to negative 3x plus 4. And build my little balance point there for my equations. And then I like to always think about canceling out the x or whatever letter that's the smallest. And that just keeps your answers positive. This isn't the only right way to do it. It's just the way I prefer. But look for the smallest x. So negative 3 would be that smallest value. So in order to do the inverse operation or cancel it out, we need 3 positive x's. So I'm going to add 3 x's to both sides because remember this line is where I'm perfectly balanced. So adding 3 to both sides will keep it balanced. Over here it cancels. Over here we have 11x take away 18 is equal to 4. I'm going to add the 18 on both sides. So we get 11x equals 22. And then when I divide by the 11, again, I get x equals 2. Those are fun answers to get, right? Because you're like, oh, I feel like I'm doing it right if I get an answer like that. Math isn't always like that, but in your workbook, we try to keep it like that when you guys have new learning, okay? So I'm gonna go y is equal to negative 3. I'm gonna plug in the value I know for x, and then I'm gonna copy the 4. And where I am, you guys, is on this top equation. You can use the top equation, you could use the bottom equation. It should give you the same exact answer if you do your math right. I just like to go for where there's smaller numbers, okay? So I'm gonna substitute, or I already substituted, now I'm gonna simplify. So I have negative 6 plus 4, so y equals negative 2. Remember the negative team is winning by 2, so my answer is gonna be negative 2. So I'm gonna plug that in, 2 and negative 2. That is my final answer. This one over here, all of these problems, we knew what y was. But you guys, look at this one. Do you see what's a little bit different? We have this x here that's by itself. Okay, you don't always have to do it with y. So what we're going to do is look for whatever letter is by itself, and we're going to substitute that in. So then I'm going to find the same letter in the equation above. Okay, so because I circled x this time, that's what's going to go in. And I'm going to plug in this value right here for x. So I'm going to write 5 times 10 minus 3y plus 2y equals 24. Okay, so this equation, but I plugged in for x. So now I'm going to distribute. So I have 50, take away 15y, plus 2y is equal to 24. I'm going to see, is there anything I can combine, any like terms? I'm going to say, well, there's y's here, so I could put those together. So I'm going to write 50, take away 13y is equal to 24. So I'm going to subtract the 50 on both sides. So I have negative 13y. Sorry, it's kind of went crooked there, but we're just going to scoot that back over so it's close to the equal sign. We have 26, negative 26, I should say, and then divide by the negative 13 on both sides. So y is equal to a positive 2. Again, with all these 2 answers. Oh, I think that's my face is blocking that one. All right, and then we're going to plug that back in. Again, this time we have y. So I'm going to plug it back in to find x. So I'm going to plug it into the equation where x is already by itself because that's going to be the easiest one. You could plug it into this one, but it would take a little bit more work. Okay, so I'm going to plug it in. I have x is equal to 10 minus 3 times 2. And then I have 10 minus 6, so x is equal to 4. So my answer then, okay, even though we got the y first, remember that when we're writing it in an ordered pair, we always put them alphabetically. So whatever we got for y, or sorry, whatever we got for x goes first, like x, y, z, and then whatever we got for y goes second. Okay, we're almost done, you guys, with the notes. Then we still have some homework to get through. This is kind of a long assignment, but hang in there with me, kiddos. Okay, look at this one, number 5. Let me scoot it over there for you so you can actually see it. Look what we have. We have both of the x's solved. So what we're going to do is we're going to take what x is equal to and go boop, plug it in right there. Okay, you don't have to make the sound effects if you don't want to, but kind of fun. My kids make fun of me all the time because I'm always like this. So do you guys feel super bad for them? You should. All right, so instead of writing x, we're going to write y minus 1 equals, and then we're going to copy what x is equal to, negative 3 plus 2y. Okay, again, I'm going to go for the variable that has the smallest value, so I'm going to get rid of that y. So I'm going to go minus 1y on both sides, and you can put a 1 there if you have a hard time remembering what to do. Don't forget that when I cancel this, that negative sticks to that 1, okay? So I'm going to put negative 1 is equal to negative 3 plus, if I have 2 y's and I take away 1 y, I have 1 y left. So when we're down to 1, we don't even have to write the number anymore because you could just write the 1. There's 1 y, or sorry, you just write the y. All right, then I'm going to add the 3 to the other side. So I get 2 is equal to y. Then I'm going to plug that back into whatever I think is the easiest one. I think this bottom one's a little bit easier. So I'm going to say, well, then I know that x is equal to the value of y, which I know is 2, take away 1. So I have x is equal to 1. So then I write my answer as an ordered pair, starting with the x value, ending with the y value, and there we go. All right, this one's a word problem. So focus. Okay, so a math test is worth 100 points and has 38 problems. Okay, so right away, here's what you guys should be thinking. I've got 2 equations. If I want to write an equation for the points, I know it's going to add up to 100. If I want to write an equation for how many problems, I know it's going to add up to 38. Okay, so this tells me that each problem is worth either 5 points or 2 points. So you could say, let's let x be the 5-point problems and y be the 2-point problems. So if I need to make 100 points, I would say each x problem times 5 points plus each y problem times 2 points will make the 100 points because they already told me there's 100 points on it. Okay, but I know there's only 38 problems. So if I said, well, all of the x problems and all of the y problems added together makes 38. Okay, so in order to do this one using substitution, we need to get one of the letters by itself. So let's go ahead and get y by itself. I'm going to subtract x from both sides. So then y is by itself. Remember, you guys, we cannot take a letter away from a number. Those are not like terms. So we just write it 38 minus x. Now this looks like what we've been doing, right? Here's the y. Here's the y. I'm going to take this and plug it in, okay? So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to write, sorry, my book keeps folding on me. So I have 5x plus 2 times 38 minus x is equal to 100, okay? Then I'm going to distribute. So I have 5x plus, what is that, 76? And then minus 2x is equal to 100. And then we're going to put the x's together. We've got 5 x's and 2 x's. So that makes 3 x's. Sorry, 5 take away 2. So 3x plus 76 equals 100. I'm going to minus the 76 on both sides. So I have 3x is equal to 24. Divide by 3, x equals 8. Okay, so there are 8 of the x problems. Well, x was the 5-point problems. So I'm going to say there are 8 5-point problems. And then I know it has to make 38 problems altogether. Well, if I've already used 8 of those, that tells me there's going to be 30 left for the 2-point problems. And that is my final answer. Okay, now we're going to go on over to your homework. We're going to do the odd number problems together. And there's only a few of them, but these are kind of long problems. So thanks for hanging in there. All right, moving on over to problem number 1. Remember to pause it if I'm going too fast for you, which there's a good chance I am because I'm kind of just going through this, you guys. All right, question number 1. We're going to solve using substitution. So here's y. I found y again. Make sure you find the same letter that is by itself. Then we're going to take this value and plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to write that equation, negative 5x plus 3. Instead of the y, now I'm going to put this in, 10x minus 8, and then equals 51. Okay, so now I'm going to distribute. So I have negative 5x plus 30x minus 24 equals 51. Alrighty, you guys. 30x, take away 5x. I can just combine those because they're on the same side. So I have 25x, take away 24 equals 51. I'm going to add 24 to both sides. So I have 25x is equal to 75. Remember, our last step there is to divide by whatever stuck to x, and we get x equals 3. Now I need to plug that back in to get what y is. I know that y is equal to 10 times whatever x is, which I know is 3 now. Take away 8. So y equals 30, take away 8. So y equals 22. Remember, though, that when we write our final answer, we write it as an ordered pair, 3, 22. Remember for your homework, you guys, when you do these problems, you cannot just put the answer and then just think you're going to get full credit. You have to show a picture of all your work. That's how you get half of your points, is for showing the work. I'm going to help you guys set up question 2, even though it's not an odd question, just because it's a little bit different than the ones that we've done in class together. The part that's the same is that we know that y equals y. And so I can take this part and go boop, again with the sound effects, plug it in. So we have negative 6x plus 8 is equal to negative 6x minus 8. What happens here, you guys, when I add the 6x to both sides? It cancels, and I get positive 8 is equal to negative 8. Is that true? You guys should be like, no, Mrs. Bowen, not true, right? So no, that's not true. So if the x's cancel and what we're left with is not true, that means that this system of equations has no solution. Okay, and what could have given that away before we started working on it is this is written in slope-intercept form. That's the slope on both of those. And if they're both negative 6, that tells us that they're parallel lines, right? As one goes, it goes down 6 over 1, down 6 over 1. The next one goes down 6 over 1. So they're never, ever, ever going to cross. And remember, our solution is that point where they intersect. Okay, look at question number 3, back to the odd number problems here. Ooh, this one's super easy. They already told us one of the answers, x equals 8. So all we're going to do is we circle what you know and then find it in the other equation. Okay, and then we're just going to go boop, plug it in. So 2 times 8, take away y equals 23. 2 times 8 is 16 minus y equals 23. Subtract the 16 on both sides, but be very careful because this is a negative y. So you need to leave it. Negative y is equal to 7. Okay, so divide by negative 1 on both sides so that we get positive y equals negative 7. Okay, and then we already know what x is. So now when we write this in our ordered pair, x equals 8, y equals negative 7. Okay. Oh, it would help if you guys could see what I was writing, huh? All right, next problem, number 4. This one now, the one that we know is on top. So that's a little bit different. And then it goes in here. You guys can do that one on your own. That is an even one. That you're going to plug in there for y. Okay. Here we have x by itself. So we're always going to find whatever letters by itself. And then we find it in the opposite equation, and we're going to plug that in there. So now I'm going to write that 2 times negative 2y minus 1. I just took that, wrote it where the x was. Now I'm going to copy the rest of it. Minus y equals 3. Okay, so now we're going to distribute. So we have negative 4y minus 2 minus y equals 3. I'm going to combine my like terms. Scoot this up a little bit so you guys can see it better. We're going to put the y's together. So negative 4y and negative y is negative 5y's. I'm going to add the 2 to both sides. So I have negative 5y is equal to 5. And then I'm going to divide by the negative 5 on both sides. So we get y equals negative 1. Now I'm going to plug that back in and find what x is. So I'm going to say x is equal to negative 2 times negative 1 minus 1. So we have x is equal to positive 2. Remember, a negative times a negative is positive, minus 1. So x is equal to 1. All right, so our final answer we write as 1, negative 1, and there we go. We're going to skip number 6. You guys can do that one on your own, but remember, start by finding the letter that's all by itself, find it in the other equation, and then you know that's what you're going to plug in for that x value. Boop. All right, question number 7 is an odd question. This one says, describe and correct the error in solving the system of equations. So for the first step, they said, well, we don't have one by itself. Let's get this y by itself, just like what we did in our word problem on the previous page. So we said, well, if I want y by itself, I'm going to have to take away 3x from both sides. Okay, so they got y is equal to 9, take away the 3x. That part looks good. Okay, I agree with that. Step 2, they said, well, here's what y equals. Here's y in the other equation. So I'm going to write 4x plus 2 and then put in what y equals and then equals 6. They distributed. So far, so good. They combined like terms. They didn't show it here, but they took away the 18 on both sides. And that's how they got the negative 12. They divided and got 6. That looks good. Everything so far looks good. Okay, well now we have x, so we would plug it back in for x. But where did they plug it in for? They didn't plug it in for x. They plugged it in for y. Okay, so that's the mistake. All right, so you guys can write that out. I'm not gonna take time to write it out on the video, but you guys write that out. They plugged they put the 6 in for y instead of x. We already knew what x is. We need to find what y is, okay? So this part down here is wrong. Plug it in for x, see if you can find the right answer. All right, and then for number 8, see if you guys can give that word problem a try. Look back at the one that we practiced and see if you guys could figure it out. All right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.